Hey everybody, it's Aaron at Lootz Collectibles, coming at you today with a Lootz Master File. I don't know if I'm going to do this again, but we'll see. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about the trading card and collectible marketplace monopoly that's trying to be attempted right now. The three companies involved at the moment are GameStop, eBay, and PSA. eBay doesn't really want anything to do with it, but GameStop did partner with PSA earlier so late last year, and it's created kind of a trading card crisis that we'll talk about in a minute. But GameStop just increased their stake in eBay to 10%. And for the casual observer, this is a headline about corporate maneuvering. For those of us running shops, it's a warning flare. Back in May, Ryan Cohen, who's the CEO of GameStop, proposed a $56 billion acquisition that eBay's board dismissed as not credible. But look at the filings. Cohen has converted derivatives into 43.4 million common shares, and he's also poured in 500 million of his own money into this scheme. They aren't just trying to beat Amazon. That's a narrative for Wall Street. The real strategy here is vertical integration of the hobby. By using their 1,600 retail stores as nodes for the cards, and then partnering with PSA to create a standardized power pack, GameStop's trying to become the clearinghouse for every card you own by attempting to absorb the primary and secondary marketplace, which is eBay. So today we're going to peel back the curtain on that a little bit and give you some more info so that you can go into it understanding what's actually happening and why it's worrying for us that are here at the ground level. If you're watching the news, you're hearing Wall Street call GameStop's eBay play reckless, unrealistic. They're crunching spreadsheets, they're looking at the debt to equity ratios, and they're dismissing it as a failing retailer, making a desperate reach, but they're looking at the wrong map. Wall Street sees a legacy video game store. They don't see the Collectibles Engine that's already, it's driving nearly half of GameStop's revenue. So here's the secret that they're missing. GameStop isn't trying to build a better retail store. They're trying to build the infrastructure for the entire hobby. So Wall Street treats trading cards, comics, action figures, everything that's collectible out here as toys. Some of it is. But GameStop treats them like alternative assets. If they're trying to own the entire loop, they're basically from the moment you trade in a card at a shop to the moment it gets graded to the moment it sells on the global platform, it's an audacious plan to be the toll collector for the $1 trillion collectibles market, starting with a disaster that's hitting every card collector right now, the PSA grading shutdown. So the recent temporary shutdown of PSA's value tiers, so value, value bulk, value plus, value max, isn't just a random delay. It's the direct consequence of the GameStop floodgate effect. So before this partnership, grading was a friction-filled process that most people, for most people, they had memberships, complex forms, you had shipping anxiety. With GameStop, they removed most of that friction. So they've turned every retail clerk into an intake technician. So by mid-2025, that partnership had already processed over 1 million cards. By 2026, the volume didn't just grow, it exploded. And then when you combine that influx with the explosive growth of trading card games like Pokemon and One Piece, which are currently outpacing traditional sports cards, you get a record-breaking volume that shattered the existing infrastructure. PSA graded 2.5 million cards in June of 2026 alone, right? So it's a record. Yet they still had to pause their low-cost tiers to keep the system from collapsing under the 14 million card backlog. So why does this matter to your wallet? Because the shutdown effectively closed the door on the average collector. When PSA paused their value tiers on June 2nd of 2026, they forced every submission into the regular tier or higher, starting at $79.99 per card. If you are submitting a borderline card that might grade at an 8 or 9, the math doesn't work anymore. At $32.99, this was manageable risk. But at $79.99, you're just losing money on the grading fee alone. This has created a speculative bottleneck. Casual collectors were encouraged to submit raw cards in hope of flipping a gem mint 10. But when the system got clogged, the only people left standing were high-volume dealers who can price accordingly and afford the $79.99 plus cost. So this shifts the entire hobby toward a high entry cost institution model, exactly as GameStop's strategy begins to take hold. And now look at the supply network and the impact of local shops. LCS owners, local comic shop, local card stores, they're not just losing sales to GameStop, they're being starved by a broken distribution model. Distributors favor high volume national chains. When GameStop secures a massive allocation of Magic the Gathering or Pokemon to fuel their in-store intake and the PSA grading services, there is simply not a lot of product left over for the shops that host weekly tournaments and build the community. So we're seeing a trend here where independent shops are becoming showrooming casualties. A customer comes in, looks at a card, checks the price on their phone, which is linked to a secondary market that GameStop is actively trying to monopolize. When local shops can't compete on supply volume or pricing power, they lose their ability to serve as the third place for collectors. So, is this a monopoly in the making? Legal experts, regulators will certainly look at it that way, considering their interest in the PSA and PSA's acquisition of Beckett in December of 2025. Antitrust laws focus on whether a company substantially lessens competition. So if GameStop controls the intake with their 1,600 stores, the authentication through PSA partnership, and the marketplace with potential eBay acquisition, they reach a level of vertical integration that the Federal Trade Commission and Department of Justice have historically blocked. The industry's watching the PSA backlog tracker like a hawk, not just for the grading times, but as a proxy for the health of the entire market. PSA is targeting a reduction from 12 million backlog cards down to 5 million. But they admitted that reopenings are tied to their operational milestones, not dates. So if you're a collector, my advice is simple. Be strategic, stop spraying and praying with low value submissions, and if you aren't pre-screening your candidates for a PSA 10, you're just setting money on fire. We're in the middle of a massive power struggle for the soul of our hobby. You know, GameStop is betting that they can turn trading cards into a regulated, standardized asset class. But the real heartbeat of this hobby has always been the local shop, the trade, and the community. If we lose that to a closed-loop monopoly, the hobby as we know it is gone forever. Stay informed, keep your eyes on the filings, and keep supporting the shops that build the community. Collect awesome. You know where to go.